Hey, hello everyone. This is the Zero Hiccup podcast, and today we have two wonderful people from the team Mockingbird, Ian and Sanji, who have collectively been building this business, Mockingbird, a company that is into managing state licenses, board certifications, and other credentials for clinicians. So, hello guys. How is your morning going?
Great.
Good. It's going well, Ayush. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah, I was pretty excited because though we have known each other for quite some time, I really wanted to deep dive and learn more from your journey and how things really go at Mockingbird. So, guys, why not we start quickly with a quick introduction about both of you, Ian and Sanji, and especially talking a bit more chronologically, like what led you to eventually be working on Mockingbird or starting Mockingbird and so on. So, would you like to go ahead one at a time and tell us more about your backgrounds?
I'll kick it off. So my name is Ian Madom. I trained as an orthopedic spine surgeon and have spent the past 15 years plus in practice. I met the co-founder of Mockingbird, George Fernane, who's an interventional cardiologist at NYU. We met at our time in business school at Yale and really discovered in each other and probably a little bit in ourselves our passion for solving problems for clinicians, people who deliver the healthcare, at least in the US healthcare system, which we know pretty well. So we started to solve problems that we felt personally with managing all of the different requirements around licenses and credentials that we hold. Just to be able to practice medicine, we have to do certain things to keep those credentials up to date. And the time periods are pretty variable. They range from 1 to 10 years. And the requirements, not only between the credentials, are different, but they change constantly. And we had a hard time keeping up with this. We certainly had a hard time keeping up with the documentation. But then it really came down to the education, which is a lot of these requirements, was really challenging to get done in a time efficient way and to really complete something that helped us practice better medicine. So we set on our quest to try to fix it. And quite a few years later, with some great teammates, not the least of which Sanji Silva, who has been a huge part of making the platform what it is. We are a growing company that's serving a number of clinicians in the space.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, and thank you for a great shout out. So I started off in software back as I graduated college, and I was in the telecom industry, but really started to gain an interest in the healthcare space through personal experiences. And I also wanted to have more of an impact. And I think, like what better place than healthcare to do that, but with technology. And so my first kind of foray into healthcare was at Athena Health, where I truly got to see a lot about the electronic health record. And we've learned how that has truly changed the workflow for clinicians and whatnot. But also we hear the other side of it, right? There's now clinicians having to spend 50% of their day or more sometimes doing some of that work. So starting to work at Athena Health, it was truly an eye opener for me on how much work there is left to do and how much opportunity there is in the healthcare industry compared to some of the other industries like telecom and whatnot. So that's when I kind of decided, okay, I'm gonna focus on healthcare. Decided to go get my MBA while working at Athena Health with a healthcare focus at Yale, and that's how I met Ian and George. I had also wanted to try a startup, but never really done that. I was at places like, Athena was a pretty big company, but before that it was Oracle. And Ian convinced me to kind of take that leap. And I joined in April of 2020 and have been there since. And truly, I think I've learned more in the past 3 years than I did throughout my career before that, because you really get to wear so many different hats. And what's been really special is being able to work with practicing clinicians in healthcare to really build those products where you don't get that kind of access, usually, right, when you're on the tech side. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey, leading and building the product team. There was no true product managers. There was a team of engineers, very smart engineers who had helped build the MVP by that point. And I had this wonderful opportunity to build a team of product managers, bring a designer in-house, and really build a product and truly had the opportunity to take it to market, which has been incredible.
Not surprised, because I know, like, startups, you're wearing all the hats, and I think the title comes later and the work comes first. So yeah, so Ian, I'd like to know more into, like, when the first vision of Mockingbird came to your mind and you started working towards it, and today what Mockingbird does. So like, how has the journey been, and especially what are the major challenges that, as a startup founder, especially who is coming from a clinical background and probably like doing a full-time practice, like, how has been the journey from there on till now?
Yeah, Mockingbird started with this initial idea that we were going to manage board certification. So in the US, a very popular thing is maintenance of certification. It's actually the base of Mockingbird, MOC. There's no K in it. So maintenance of certification is something attached to board certification. And that's really a pathway that physicians, both medical doctors and doctors of osteopathic medicine, go through to kind of demonstrate that they are keeping up on their knowledge base. They're doing certain activities and educational activities and performance improvement activities that prove, hey, I am really up to date on the most current medicine. Turns out that problem is kind of fixed, but in a way that it wasn't a major pain point for clinicians out there as much as licenses and other credentials. So we pivoted, and that's probably we can manage anything that expires, any type of credential that expires, but a lot of the work we do is in the state licensing space, because in the United States, every single state, 50 states plus DC, all have different boards. You have to get a separate license to manage in that jurisdiction, and they all have different rules. I'd say the biggest challenge through all this, because there's this mountain of information, there's this mountain of problems to really solve within the problem, is something that, again, I'll give another shout out to Sanji Silva. And what she brought to the team is focus, right? Is, hey, we cannot solve every problem at once. We need to figure out priorities. And I would say it's still something that we're challenged with, is figuring out priorities, and what our priorities are today may differ 3 months down from now. They may differ 3 weeks from now, but we try to keep consistent a little longer than that. And that's always been a challenge for us. And I think it will continue to be. I think, in fact, it's a challenge for any company, is to be focused on those priorities.
Right, right. And that's why I think people from these different, I'd say, personality types or different priority types are important in a team, because, like, you can all complement each other. So, Sanji, a follow-up question to you, actually, because, like, you have been holding the fort. So how do you approach problem solving, especially when it is at the intersection of healthcare and technology? And what challenges do you see that you'd like to mention, if any particular challenges that you see because of this intersection?
Yeah, absolutely, Ayush. So one big challenge, which is not only a healthcare industry challenge, I would say, is truly understanding the end user behavior, and how they would find value in your product, right? Whether it's a clinician or an administrator, really trying to kind of understand their day-to-day workflow. How would they utilize our product in that? And a lot of times, technologists like myself, engineers are so far removed from that end-to-end users day to day, and having access to get true, deep insights and do user research is difficult because these are already very busy folks, right? But what we have done, like I mentioned before, we have had the luxury of having two clinicians who are still practicing, so we get to talk to them all the time. But additionally, we take user research and design very seriously. So whenever we get the chance, we kind of jump on the opportunity to work with whether it's existing clients or potential clients and say, hey, would you like to meet for a 45-minute interview? And we do kind of get the design mock-up together, and build that. But before we get it to implementation, truly making sure we can get some real feedback from the end user, and then utilizing that, and just kind of then we'd rather make a change at that point versus when it's already implemented, right? So that has been a huge kind of value add in our process. And because a lot of companies super early on don't really have a designer, and I strongly believe that you pay for it in different ways, right? It's that churn. So that's one thing we've done to really build end user feedback. And then, of course, the constraints and the complexities of the existing healthcare system. I mean, it's highly regulated, right? And we may build the perfect product, but if we can't sell it, and if we can get onboarding and kind of the rollout just right, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So really thinking about that, we've focused on, again, what can we do to simplify onboarding, make it as easy as possible for the clients. And so we have white glove onboarding. We try to take all the work, even if it's kind of manual to begin with, and then find ways to automate that. And how kind of approaching problem solving, one big thing to me is team collaboration. Just as collaborating with the end users and getting that building that feedback loop is important, truly encouraging and empowering all team members to kind of challenge each other and push boundaries, right? Especially, as we work with the Mindbowser team. It's a team of engineers sitting in India. Some of us are over here in the US. There are language, barriers, if you will, and just cultural differences. And what we spent a lot of time early on just kind of putting infrastructure in place to foster collaboration, and just even some of the things that you all are doing, I think, go so far in terms of team building activities, just getting the team together on and off site, right? And we started doing more of that, also virtually, of course, and really got feedback from the team stateside saying, wow, I had no idea about these engineers, and just learning about them just opens up communication. And now they're not afraid to ask questions or push boundaries, like the verification team, for example, right? The verification engineering team has built such a kind of close relationship to the point where they bring things up now. And we now incorporate some of the the lead test engineer, the lead mobile engineer, all of them in some of our every other week meetings, so that at the time of planning, sometimes we can get some of the feedback, because there's sometimes this engineering constraints, if you will, right? Like product and design can go design the most beautiful feature, but if we don't take engineering feedback, we're gonna again find things too late. So that, I would say, is kind of a big thing. Again, it's easy to forget sometimes, but kind of building those relationships really go so far, because now we're able to like I said, challenge each other, and now the product is elevated because of that. The service we provide is elevated because of that. And then the other thing I'll mention is kind of keeping a pulse on the industry, and building a culture again, of all the team members being open to adapting. I mean, the number of times we've changed priorities, we've changed the roadmap, and just saying, oh, this big feature, it is still important, but this other feature is now more important because, of what clients are saying or whatever that is. And that's another thing that, it is tough sometimes to get, engineering teams, product teams to do that. But what I've found successful is looping them in as early as possible. So that this goes to some of the communication infrastructure we've set up in terms of weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, right? But being intentional about what we talk about in those and letting them know of the why, like why we are prioritizing A over B, or we're switching things. Now they're bought in, right? They understand the why, and so they're going to also be bought into saying, yeah, I get it, like let's prioritize that, let's go after that. And they're not demotivated by this kind of half completed feature, if you will.
Right. Okay. So what I can summarize is basically you work towards bringing the cohesion and to bring it to a level where resonance happens. So it's like cohesion leading to resonance, so that more value gets created.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty good lesson in, getting things done. So, Ian, tell me more about, because you have been practicing your, as a physician practice as well, and then you are also a full-time CEO at Mockingbird. So, for doctriners, if you would like to give any advice and, from your own learnings, like how to do the balancing act there, would you like to elaborate on that?
I mean, the balance essentially comes down to building a great team, right? You cannot wear all hats at once. And not only do you have to build a great team, you have to trust that team and really let them lead. I think that that's one of the things that I've learned over the course of this project, is that really letting go a little bit more and letting people lead and letting people fail and letting people succeed and cheering them on for their success. I mean, that's real leadership. That's something that, I have not really experienced in my physician life, right? When I'm in the operating room, certainly I can let people lead in certain ways, but I can't just let somebody else do the operation. I have to do the operation. Maybe in my academic days when I was teaching residents, there was this stepwise kind of graduated responsibility. But at the end of the day, it was still a lot of deep ownership over that. And this is different. It's a different stage. Not to say that the stakes are not high, but learning how to let people, lead, and you leading them by being a sounding board, by giving advice, by really giving people good feedback and letting them go back and try again, I think has been a good part of how I've been able to balance. Otherwise, there's no way we could get all of this done. And I think that has been a large part of the success of Mockingbird. I don't think of it as my success. I think of it as ours, because there are so many important parts to what we do, and they're the people that are the company, right? And that's important in not only delivering a great product and a great experience, but a great culture to work in. There is somebody who that works on the Mockingbird team now, and she was in healthcare delivery before, and she really remarked on that to both Sanji and I, how the culture is different, that we lean into when somebody has input and has a different perspective, and that is a good thing when people push back on the way we might be moving, because it can lead to a better result. So
Right.
I'd say that the balance can be tricky, and that balance also relies on my family, right? My wife, is much more involved with day-to-day stuff with our 4 kids. I get involved, but if it wasn't for her, I couldn't manage this. And the same thing in my practice.
Mhm.
I have great physician assistants and a great partner that help me balance things. So I think you have to build a good team around you, empower that team, and appreciate that team, often telling them how much you appreciate that they let you do the things that you do.
Right. So has it happened to you like any interesting stories where you got an idea about technology while you were doing a surgery, or you got idea for surgery when you were doing some technology thoughts? So has it happened anytime?
I mean, I have a book of ideas that I won't have a lifetime enough to pursue. It's whether those ideas are what I think, great. I do subscribe to this idea that no new idea is good and no good idea is new. It takes iteration and time, same as Mockingbird. It's not now what it started as, and it won't be 3 or 4 years from now what it is now, because it continues to improve through that iteration. I do a lot of spinal robotics in my practice, and so I've been involved in that process, helping the company that delivers that improve what they do. But the surgery itself, I think, when I think of the things that I would like to potentially work on in the future, it's collaboration tools. It's tools to communicate and educate. It's very similar to the mission that we have with Mockingbird, which is how do we deliver the most impactful education? Right now, people in the US think of this continuing education process is it's a process of I need to check these boxes off to continue to practice. It's not I need to do these things to improve my performance. And that's just, to me, a waste of an opportunity, because the most valuable thing we have is our time. Why can't we do both at the same time? And so I think that delivering people real-time education that's impactful, maybe through the operating room, through directed learning, or through videos. And people are doing this stuff, and I happen to collaborate with them on the side and do those kind of projects too, which is, it can be fun. And also, again, I have to remember the focus and remember what my primary responsibilities are.
Right. So, question to you, Sanji. Let's talk about future. So, would you have you started exploring that? I would say the newer technologies, just like Ian mentioned, how things are evolving. So, the newer technologies of say AI, machine learning. Do you see impact happening in healthcare industry? And then, if yes, then how Mockingbird is exploring these technologies in the products and services?
And the answer is absolutely, it will impact. And I think we're already seeing a lot of that. There's all the buzz about ChatGPT, and there's a lot of kind of media out there about how the negatives of it, right? Oh, is it going to replace product managers or doctors? I don't believe that's the case. I truly see all of technology, including AI, as being an assistant, right? It can never really replace a human, because technology is only as good as how smart we make it out to be, right? And in terms of utilizing it for Mockingbird, absolutely. So we have part of the platform where we have this rules engine that we have created, which can automatically tell a clinician, okay, based on your licenses you have, when they expire, these are the requirements. However, there's the other side of it, which is the evidence of the learning, right? So we let clinicians either take that learning courses on our platform, or a lot of times what happens is we're agnostic. You don't have to take the course on our platform. So you can take it wherever, you can attend whatever conference, but just give us that evidence, right? Of what course did you do, what credits, because there's a lot of nuance around that. And what we're able to do is kind of match it up behind the scenes through that rules engine and say, okay, this piece of evidence meets this requirement, or it doesn't. Sometimes, you might think you met it, but the state is very particular, so you might not. But where we are already utilizing some, machine learning is on that front, because we need to be able to automatically extract the data. And so we're using a solution that has OCR will extract some of the data, but again, the challenge with it is no two transcripts or certificates look the same. But we're working through it and trying to find the standardizations and utilize. We're training a model. We've been training this for months now, and every day it gets better. But also there's a lot of kind of custom work we're doing behind the scenes to be able to automate more and more and more of it. And it's challenging all of us to really think about what can we do on the Mocingbird back end to make this scalable, but also what can we do to automate, because we don't see it as being 100% automated. We don't want that because clinicians and admins actually want some level of human interaction for that kind of cross the check and balance, if you will. So we do have kind of our operations team doing a lot of that manual work, but every day, again, we're finding ways to automate that process while we train the model and train it to extract various different information. So it's kind of these parallel lanes that we're running because they all, to me, it's a kind of multifactorial solution that will really help us get to as much automation as we can so we can truly scale. In the future, we absolutely see this kind of, the vision that Ian and George always had from the beginning is to impact education that clinicians take. So really on that front, we're starting to gather a lot of data now. Even in the past couple of years, building the rules engine, we've kind of peeled this onion and learned so much about the nuances. And we're building libraries, we're building mappings kind of behind the scenes. And this is our secret sauce, right? Because it takes time. You can have the smartest engineers, smartest product managers and clinicians in a room, but because of the complexity and the nuances of this the CE world that I've learned in the past 2 years, it takes time to build that. And so that's what we're doing. And it's very exciting because the future we see is truly being able to utilize that data, utilize AI, machine learning, and be able to kind of almost predict what the clinician would want to learn and deliver it at the right time, as Ian has said.
Sanj, I love that because I really think of these things, even in my clinical world, as enabling technologies, right? That's a buzzword that's big in the device world, enabling technologies. But Mockingbird is an enabling technology, right? Like, how do we enable people to do it the most efficiently? Or, there's such a, like, the medical knowledge base in the world doubles every 72 days. That's impossible to keep up on. So you need tools that can enable a clinician to keep up on things. I'll tell you, people are not interested in a robot doing their surgery, in a robot delivering their care. They're just not, because we're not at that point in our evolution. That may be 100 years out, that may be 50 years out. But there are steps before that, and it's these enabling technologies of how clinicians can deliver more consistent care. Getting rid of the variability is going to drive cost of care down, and that's what's going to help us get to better care overall, more consistent care overall, and healthier populations.
I just wanted to add that I think as technologists using some of this newer technology, we need to be thoughtful because of the garbage in, garbage out. And in terms of the data that we feed into whatever it is, the model, the algorithm, right? And really being thoughtful about where can there be bias without unintentional bias sometimes, right? And so just wanted to kind of mention that because I am a huge fan of some of these technologies, but you don't want to go too fast. And it is so important for the folks involved in building to, again, collaborate with the clinicians, with the users to make sure what you're inputting is good.
Great. No, that definitely makes sense. And I think that's that cautionary note for anyone basically using technology today. Well, the time has flew so fast, guys. So thank you so much. We'll wrap up this session here. And I know we could have gone on talking, but this is Jen. And thank you so much for taking out the time. And have a good day ahead and happy building. Take care.